Here it's different. So, what I do is in this short session, my idea is I just need 15-20 minutes of your time on a Friday morning. Just 50% of your concentration. Mainly to students and to some extent to parents, because maybe parents and teachers are a lot more involved in the way the students learn, much more than what is required. So it's important that we need to reduce their involvement and put this back on students. The responsibility, it's always about, 50% is about how we learn from teachers in school, tuition class, etc. etc. The remaining 50% is about how we learn at home or wherever we learn. So, and that's where most of us make a mistake. When we learn at home, most of the students, and good students do that very well. When they learn on their own, learning on their own is when you learn the best. Otherwise, it's back to spoon feeding. And most of us completely depend on spoon feeding. We learn only for exams. And when you learn only for exams, there's so much pressure, it's very boring. You might be scoring well, but it's not an indication of whether you like the subject. It's not an indication of whether you're good in that subject. So, if you ask me what the session is about, it's a very simple session on how to learn. To some extent important even for parents, so that they can reduce their involvement in how the students learn, so that it's less of spoon feeding and more of learning on their own. So, a very short session on how to learn. I'll only, and in fact, what I did before, what I'll do next should not matter to you. So in fact, Praveen wasted almost 10 minutes giving an introduction. So I'll try compensating for that in the next 15-20 minutes on a session where you'll get a head start. Now, who am I to talk about how to learn? I can confidently tell you that the way I did, I was able to do well in exams because I used to learn most of the subjects, especially the ones which I love, on my own. Math and science, I learned on my own. That helped me to do very well in exams because I was always learning well beyond exams. So in 8th standard as a National Math Olympiad winner, and I've almost finished my academic achievements with, I used to take exams for fun. I never used to learn for exams. I learn in such a way that exams are taken care of. And I didn't go to a good school, the so-called good school. I went to a normal government school in a small village just to dramatize the story. But fact is, learning on my own, this is something which I'm sure I got it right. At least the exams will prove that. So how you can start doing it is by asking questions and not by answering questions. Right? Today you're only answering questions, you don't ask questions. You don't ask questions to yourself. I'm not talking about asking questions to your teachers or your parents. Asking questions to yourself the way you used to ask when you were a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. You need to bring that childlike curiosity back in your system. You don't ask it. Do you ask 50 questions a day? You used to ask more than that when you were a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, right? Learning how to ask the right kind of questions is actual learning or real learning, right? How you can start asking questions and how you can try figuring out answers on your own. You need not get your answers. You should try figuring out answers on your own. Will give you a good start towards the right learning. And time is on your side. There's absolutely no pressure. You still have many more years ahead of you. There's no pressure, right? It's not about every year. Parents might be telling you this is the most important year. But the fact is, every year is important. When you are in school, when you are out of school. Learning is not for exams. Learning has to be, you need to change that because the jobs of tomorrow, we don't even know today. So, learning how to learn is very important when you are in school, when you are in college, and even more important when you are out of it. So, how do we start doing that? So, let me start by breaking everything. So, I'm making it very specific now. It's not just, I'm just going to not talk about, I'll show you how to learn. I'm just going to give you a head start over here. Every subject, and I'm assuming that there are 6th, 7th, and 8th standard students sitting here. So it doesn't matter, I'll keep it very basic, very general. There will be something for everyone, for these 6, 7, 8 students as well as all those students who left all these things back 15, 20 years back. Every subject can be broken down at its basic, most basic level. You can break it down as words, as numbers, as variables, as diagrams. There are only 4 languages where you need to kind of understand how to connect, how to translate between these 4 languages. If you can learn this is not how we normally do in our system. Our system is all about you memorize, you replicate, you forget. You memorize again, right? You memorize, you replicate, you forget. Once exam is over, everything is over and you start again. Otherwise, you don't need to spend 100 hours to finish off your 8th standard maths and science. You can do that in 10-20 hours if you are doing it right. So if you can start doing that today, where you just started feeling the subjects, being in 6, 7, 8. Later you become more application oriented, but it's important to get those fundamentals right at this stage. So these are the 4 languages. Now there are some subjects where you will end up using all 4 of them. There are some of them where you will use only one. Let's say biology might be mostly about words and diagrams. History might be mostly about words with some numbers. Now why we find math very abstract or where we don't relate to math much. You might be scoring well in math by memorizing and practicing. By practicing, how do we learn math? By practicing hundreds of questions made by someone else. Not by making questions on our own. We only solve questions made by someone else. Now, one reason why math is that all 4 are involved. All 4 are involved almost with equal importance, right? You might be giving them different names. Words is what you might be calling as arithmetic in math. Diagrams is what you might be classifying as geometry. Variables is what you are classifying as algebra. And numbers, you take it as numbers itself. But what is important is, or what is missing today is, you don't learn algebra using geometry. You neither learn algebra using geometry nor the other way around. The moment you start learning that way, immediately you are 15 chapters per year. You have around 15 chapters on an average per year. 150 formulae which you memorize, 1500 questions you practice. It will come down to these four basic languages. And it's at the lowest level. Words, variables, numbers and diagrams. I'm going to show you few scenarios where you learn how to connect between the 4. Words, variables, numbers and diagrams. It's not for math, it's for every subject. And when you start connecting and learning, number of chapters will come down from 15 to 4 and which will finally connect as 1. You'll end up having so much more time to play and learn. To learn and play. One is the same. Maybe today you are not getting enough time because you spend a lot of time in classrooms, then in tuition class, then doing homework. There is no time for you to learn. Because only 50% can be based on teachers, what happens in the classroom or in tuition. Remaining 50% is about what you do at home, how you learn at home. It's not about sitting in front of a book and wasting time. It's about sitting in front of a book and thinking and asking questions, figuring out the questions. If you have the questions, then only you will have answers. If you are taking questions from someone else, then you are only using just one part of what we can do, which is memory. This is the lowest level of learning. If you are only memorizing, you might be scoring 10 on 10. See, I used to score 100 on 100 in math by learning and almost 100 in Hindi just by memorizing without understanding anything. So marks are not an indication of whether we are good in a subject or not. All of us are good in some one or the other thing. You need to figure it out over the next few years, right? So let me start with otherwise what will happen is, if I ask you a very simple question, what is the difference between ratio and fraction? You've already wasted enough time on both these chapters concepts. I'm sure you won't have the right answer. The right answer is which if you can give this answer to a 4th standard student and make him understand, then that's what I call the right answer. Difference between ratio and fraction. If I use only numbers as a language, if I write 1 by 3 and 1 by 3, there's no difference. This can be taken as ratio, this can be taken as fraction. But if I give a context, now context is where I use words, so that's the next language. If I use words here, so 1 by 3 is a ratio, 1 by 3 is a fraction. Now if I just write 2 scenarios here, 1 pizza given to 3 of your friends, this usage is different from 1 by 3 of a pizza. So this is the only difference. It takes only 2 minutes to understand the difference between ratio and fraction, but I don't think most of us learn this way. The difference is only when you give a context. Now when I say context, in simpler language, when I start using words. So the difference is only in usage. If I am using only numbers, there is no difference. So one is ratio, one is fraction, which I am assuming all of you know which one is ratio and which one is fraction. And what is the difference? Difference is, in this case, both numerator and denominator, they represent 2 different things. In this case, this is used as a single quantity. There is one way to explain the difference between those 2 chapters. For you, these were 2 chapters, right? In 6th or 7th, ratio and fraction. Continuing from ratio and fraction, the next chapter was, we were memorizing all those chapters as different chapters without ever connecting them. The next chapter was percentages, which I'm sure some of you have already memorized, others will memorize soon. We don't learn, we only memorize for exams. If I write A by B equal to C by D, these are two equivalent fractions. I'm using the next language. What is the language used here? Variables, right? These are variables. Now what is the meaning of variables in common language? I can use anything. In common language, variables is I can use anything. So if I replace this with 100, that's when this is your next chapter. These are the different chapters. I'm only taking 2 minutes to help you connect from one chapter to the other chapter. I'm not trying to teach you here. I'm trying to show you the kind of mistakes which all of us make, almost all of us. So out of the 4 variables, if I fix one of them at 100, this is what you call, this is your next chapter. The chapter which will, where you will waste time, so much more time in the next few years. Now, if I write A by B equal to C by D, and if I replace D with 100, this is what you call percentage. But when you are learning, suppose if you are learning in such a way that, how many unknowns are here? How many unknowns are here? There are 3 unknowns. So you can only make, and I am not talking about solving, there is a fundamental difference between what you are doing today and how you can do it better. We are all getting trained to solve questions. We are not getting trained to find problems. If you can make that slight change over the next few years, you will reach your actual potential. It's all about you reaching your actual potential. Most of us never reach our actual potential because we don't even try. We only follow a system where we memorize, replicate, forget. We prepare for our competitive exams by going through the last 15 years papers, last 25 years papers. If you have friends, siblings in 12th standard, you know what they are doing today. They are going through the last 15 years papers, memorizing and mugging up and memorizing, hoping and praying that they get something like that when they take the exam in March or April. So, now, just to show you, since there are only 3 unknowns, you can only make 3 types of questions. Now, just to write that here, if I replace this with numbers, so I'm translating this to the next language, which is numbers, 2 by 8, and this will get replaced with 25. So this is one statement, 2 by 8 is equal to 25 by 100. I can also write that 2 is, how will I write this as a statement? 2 is 25% of age. This is the statement using which anyone can only make 3 types of questions. There is no point in practicing 30 other questions made by someone else without realizing this. But unfortunately, this is not how you are learning today. This is not how you are learning today. You don't learn by making questions. You learn by solving questions made by someone else. It takes more time. It takes more time. It's boring. It's boring in the first place. You are giving so much more time than what is required to learn right. And so how do we make questions here? You replace any one of them. There are only 3 numbers. You replace any one of them with X. X is the unknown, right? And when you're writing that in words, these are only the 4 languages. How will you write this? What is X can be replaced with what? What is 25% of 8? What is 25% of 8 is question number 1. What will be question number 2? I'll replace this with X. Or 2 is 25, 2 is what percentage of 8? That's type 2. And what is type 3? 2 is 25% of what? There are only 3 types, it's over. This should be the first 5 minutes in a percentage chapter, how to make questions. And this will happen only if you are trying to do it, it's just a matter of time. And then you will know that the 30 questions which are coming in different ways is nothing but an extension of category 1, category 2, category 3. I'm discussing things at 6th standard level. But if you are not getting it right in 6th standard, it's impossible to get it right in 12th standard. Because all these chapters do repeat. If you have any doubt, keep your 6th standard textbooks up to 10th standard textbooks and see how many of them are not repeating. That will be easy to count. All chapters do repeat. But you are spending so much time, giving so much respect to exams. You're not learning. You're missing out on the real fun which is there in learning. Only if you can bring that curiosity back in your system. You should learn like how a 3-year-old is learning today. You see how fast he or she is learning. Learn like that by asking questions and by trying to figure out answers. So it's only this much. What is 25% of 8? 2 is 25. 2 is what percentage of 8? And 2 is 25% of what? You can change the order to make it grammatically right. but it's only this much. Now, I started with something at 6th standard level. Now I'll show you something which we all. Now, if I just write, how do we learn? It's very simple. There are only 4 languages, which all of us understand all 4 languages, just that we don't know how to translate between the 4. If I just write one becoming many, I'm showing you how you can start learning that. And that's what I will call, if you start doing that, that's when you will learn how to learn. Learn how to learn. Learn what to learn is, or it's there in all books, all exams. But learning how to learn will make you much better, and you will realize that all of us are far better than what we think we are. So if I just write one becoming many, and if I ask you to just translate this to numbers, translate this to numbers. And if this is not in your syllabus, this won't come in your exam, but this is what will take care of your exam. And if I give you 5 minutes, you should do something. It need not be right. We are all scared of doing things wrong. That's why we don't experiment, we don't try out. We simply follow the path taken by everyone else. We don't even try figuring out what we like, what we are good at. It's very important to do things at the intersection of what you like and what you are good at. Otherwise, you will also end up becoming something by chance and not by choice. It's a very strong word over there. It's maybe 1 or 2. You should give yourself a good chance to do something by choice in the next 10, 12. There's so much time, don't worry. Time is on your side. Time is on your side. You have 10 years to decide what you want to do in life. 10 years and or more. Rather than remaining confused throughout your life, it's important that you figure that out over the next 10 years. Now, if I just show you one becoming many, I'm intentionally trying to give you a few minutes. Most of you will end up writing 1, 2, 3, 4 up to infinity, because these are numbers which we use in real life almost every other day. So one becoming many, if I ask you to translate, there's nothing like a right or wrong translation, but there is something like, if you are doing something, you are thinking. You can memorize without thinking, right? We can even memorize songs in other languages without even understanding anything out of it. We do that if the tune is right. If you are learning like that, you are making a big mistake. You might be doing it in exams. Exam scores, don't let the exam scores fool you to believe that you are good in something and not so good in something else. Because most of our exams, since it's purely memory based, it's not an indication of what we can do. So, one becoming many, if I ask you to visualize, I'm asking you to visualize one becoming many. If you are trying to do something, and if you can do something or anything, you will start learning right. So I'll show you one scenario. You can go back and try many scenarios. One becoming many. If you ask me to visualize, I'll start with the point. Many of them together, I'll get a line. Lines can be like this, but I'm trying to give some structure. Now, many of them together, I'll start getting polygons. You call this as a triangle, which is the first polygon. Now make this, you need not stop here. You can continue doing this. You keep on adding triangles, you get further polygons. So you get quadrilaterals. And if I keep on adding, I'll get pentagons, hexagons, octagons, and if I do this infinite number of times, I end up getting a circle. So one interpretation of one becoming one to many in a diagram is that you start with a triangle and you can finish with a circle. There might be different chapters starting from 6th standard up to 10th standard, and most of the students don't realize. You might be memorizing the difference between triangles and circles, but you don't connect the two. This is one connection. Triangle to circle is nothing but, what is a circle? A circle is nothing but many triangles put together. Right? You can easily visualize that. You start like this, you keep on adding now you start with a circle, you keep on adding triangles like this, and when you do this infinite number of times, it will become a circle. So, now if I do it the other way around, that's even more interesting. But for some reason, we don't do these things in our classrooms, even though we waste so much time. 6th standard up to 10th standard to learn triangles and circles, that's too much of a time. Crucial years where we miss out. Because we don't come back and ask questions. We only memorize the answers, we only practice and practice and practice. So if I start with a circle, now I'll start with a circle and I'll try finishing with a triangle, other way around, just to make you think the other way around. A circle, if you cut the circle, if you straighten this out, you can even get a line. That's why line can be taken as a circle with infinite radius, a circle can be taken as a polygon with infinite lines. In a way, line is a circle and circle is a line. It's all about, can you be creative when you learn? And so if I start with, let me show you something. If I start with a circle, and if I keep on adding more and more circles inside like this, how will you interpret this? If you want to write this using words, you can write that area is getting filled. Area is actually getting filled. In your language, area is getting filled with many, many circles. Actually, I allow to use infinite number of circles, but since just for representation, I am only using 5 circles. But if I use infinite number of circles, all circles will get filled. And so I am just giving you a context here. And when I say context, that means I am using words, the next language. Area is filled. Area of a circle is filled with infinite number of circles, right? This is how you will write. Area is filled with many, many, many circles. Now I'll make you think. So you're looking at a circle. Now if I ask a question, I'm sure you'll give me the answer. What is the area of a circle? You'll give me the answer even when you're sleeping. You'll give, because, and you think that is learning. This is just memorization. What is the area of a circle? You give me the answer as pi r square, and practicing 10 questions like that and answering 10 questions in the exam and getting 100 on 100 is just memorization. That's not learning. Learning is, if you're learning right, you would have thought about all these things long back. You already spent so much time on these areas before. Maybe starting from 6th onwards. Now, I write just 2 simple words here, and it's only common sense. It's all about using that. Common sense, unfortunately, is not so common, especially when it comes to learning. Just cut the diagram and open the diagram. So I'm just writing 2 very simple words. An ideal way to learn is nothing but, I should not do anything for the next 5 minutes. I should ask you to do. Or you should, if no one is asking, you should do it yourself. It doesn't matter whether it won't come in your exam. Our exams are too low a level. Our exams are too low a level when it comes to thinking. It's just memorizing. It's easy. It's very easy. In fact, it's very easy to cheat in our exams if you are learning right. I'm talking about the right kind of cheating. I used to cheat in all exams. That's why I did very well in exams without ever preparing for exams. Exams were just like games for me to have fun. I used to spend most of my time playing games. I've represented my university in 3 different games. I used to bunk almost all classes from 8th standard onwards. Anyway, there was nothing much to learn in classroom because it was only spoon feeding. So, and one thing which is when if you are not playing and if you are not spending time outdoor, if you are only learning indoor things, which is in a classroom, it's very difficult to learn the real life skills. There are things you need to learn inside a classroom, concepts, the subjects which you like, but there are a lot of things you need to learn outside classrooms. Please give some importance to that. Otherwise, you'll end up becoming one-dimensional. There are a few things you need to learn inside classrooms. You need to be book smart. But there are a lot more things you need to learn outside classrooms. You know that from your parents, those who are successful parents. They are successful because they are book smart and they are street smart. But in today's age, I don't think you are giving importance to that. You are only playing video games with your Facebook friends. You are not playing real games with your real friends. If you are not, please do that. Because otherwise, it's very difficult to learn the very important things like how to play in a team, how to work in a team, how to lead a team, how to have that killer instinct, how to perform under pressure. And many, many, many more real life skills you will never learn because that's not happening inside classrooms. So learn right and play right. When you learn right, you will have time to learn and you will have time to play and learn. Playing is also learning. If you are playing the games which you like, do you know the subjects which you like? Do you know the games you like? I doubt. You might have answers, but I doubt whether they are right answers. If I ask you what are the subjects you like, you might give me answers based on the marks which you get, which doesn't mean much. You might give me answers based on the teachers whom you like. That's not how you figure out the subjects which you like. That's not how you figure out the subjects which you like. Subjects which you like are the ones where you can find the right questions, not the right answers. Where you can find the right questions. So you have enough time. There is absolutely no pressure. there is enough time for you to figure out all these things. But you should have answers for these questions. What do you like? Is the first question where you need to find an answer. What do you like? What are the subjects you like? What are the games you like? And are you good in that? Will it make an impact on others? If you can get answers for all these things, you are successful. Success will run behind you, not the other way around. Whatever you call success, whether it's money, power, recognition, everything will run behind you. So, now, okay, I hope you were thinking on these two words. If you go back and think, you will start getting very interesting things which you have never been getting before. To cut the diagram, if I ask you to use a line, you can use a line like this, you can use a line like this which is not cutting. You can use a line like this which you call this a radius, right? What do you call this? You call this a radius. If I am using a line like this, and if I am opening this up, what I'll get is, the first circle will get opened up like this. When I'm opening this up, it will first become like this, and then you can stop where it's becoming a line. At some point of time, it will become a line. Now, if you are thinking, and if you're not trying to take it from a memory, because this is not in a direct classroom, so I'm assuming you're not taking it from a memory. What will happen to the second circle inside? The second circle, which is the red one, that will also become a line. The only difference is that will be that will that be of equal length? Will that be longer or will that be shorter? So it's very simple, right? All of us can think. All of us can think, no doubt. We are not even using 10% of what we can do. Because our exams, if you are only following an exam-based system, it doesn't require you to think. Till 10th standard, you don't need to think at all because it's purely memory-based. So if I just, so the next line will be, the line will be like this, it will be shorter. What about the next one? So as and when I go inside, it will become shorter and shorter. And it will become like this. Finally, the last one will just be a point. So what is that we are getting now? From a circle, we just got a triangle. This is a triangle. So if I tell you that circle is a triangle, you have to agree with me. And these are very simple things. For some reason, we don't do these things. After 5 years in geometry, after 10th standard also, you will never do these things. So now this is, you're looking at a triangle now. We just change the shape by just cutting the diagram and opening the diagram. Now, if you compare the two using the next language, this is what you know. Area of a circle is pi r square. What is the area of a triangle from your memory? That's not learning, that's just from your memory. Half into. Now, if this is radius, if I'm right, that's anyway radius. Half into, you're looking at a triangle like this. Half into base. Now, what is the base here? Base is the length of the outermost circle. Length is nothing but, that's what you call perimeter. So what is the perimeter of a circle? That's 2 pi r. And what is the height? What is the height here? It's same as r. So half into 2 pi r into r is nothing but pi r square. So area of a triangle, area of a circle using a triangle. Area of a circle visualized in a triangle, right? Area of a circle, this is what we did now. Area of a circle in a triangle. So circle is a triangle, triangle is a circle. It's all about, and it's important to learn the difference. It's also important to learn how to connect, because then that's when you will realize that it's what you are getting fooled, that it's 15 different chapters and 150 formulae and 1500 questions. It's all just hyped up. It's all just hyped up. So if you are learning right, you cannot change the system. You cannot change your exams. Exams will always be there. Because there are a lot more people trying to get in, and there are very few seats in our esteemed universities. Anyway, so exams will always be there. But if you are learning right, you can cheat in exams. Very easy. But you need to start learning, and you need to start giving importance to how you learn. How you learn, you need to take, you are the most important one in this process. You, followed by teachers, followed by parents. Parents should just make them positive. Parents have the main responsibility is make them positive. This is not enough. Make them extremely positive. Make them extremely positive. If you can make sure that they have 50% of the confidence which I am showing here, 20% of the passion which I am showing here, 10% of the energy which I am showing here, that's enough to succeed. But you're not making them positive if you are asking questions like, and I don't have anything against parents. I know that parents are doing this for hoping for a good thing. But the way we do sometimes is wrong. If you're still asking questions like, after scoring 98 and coming back also, if the first question is, where did the 2 marks go? As if the whole world is coming down. I know some parents who ask, that's how after scoring 98, it doesn't matter whether it's 98 or 100. Nothing is changing. It doesn't matter whether he or she is first in the class or fifth in a class. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the benchmarking itself is wrong. It's a very small classroom in a very small city or in a very big city. It doesn't matter. How does it matter whether it's first out of 20 and fifth out of 20? Benchmarking is wrong. If you're running 100 meters, you should try running under 10 seconds. That should be the benchmark. That should be the aspiration. Aspiration should be you should make sure that they learn to have, they should learn to increase their aspiration to a level which they can never reach. It's all about that. We are all far better than, let me repeat that once more, we are all far better than what we think we are. We are all far better. You just need to have that relentless drive towards doing better than yesterday. Things which you like, not everything. None of us can be good in everything. But we need to find those 2, 3, 4 things. And see, we focus too much on breadth. We only talk about improving our weak areas. And in fact, in your subjects, you will be spending more time in your weak subjects. It's important that you are spending time in your strong subjects. It's important that you capitalize on your strengths as much as you make up for your weaknesses. Just to give you an example over here, right? I come from nowhere, but only one thing which I did very well is I capitalized on my strengths on math and games. Both are equally important. Games is what taught me life. Math is what taught me logic. I capitalized on math to create a company, to impress investors. Today we are the largest in India. Very soon we'll be largest in the world. Very soon, 100% sure. So, but it's all about, but I told you right, it starts with thinking big. If you think that it's all out, the moment you think that you have achieved something, the game is over. The game is over. If you are running today, if you take 20,000 steps today, take 10 more steps tomorrow. If you are interested in running or walking. But figure out those few 1, 2, 3 things over the next 10 years. Again, I am telling you, there is no pressure. There is absolutely no pressure. There are enough options for all of you. It's much better than what it was 20 years back. When it was much more difficult 20 years back, we all made it. All parents. So kids, you will find it it's competitive, I understand. But options are too many. Options are too many. You need to just start learning right. So I'll finish with a very simple question to both students and parents, which will make you think further. And that is the whole idea. It'll make you start thinking and when it comes to learning, try connecting those 4 basic languages. So let me just give you one very basic question like the one which you would have seen today, or something similar to that. If I just, and I'm using visual questions so that all of you can easily follow. Irrespective of whether because normally I'm using diagrams is where we retain things longer, right? That's why it's very important that you make your learning visual as well as contextual, not just theoretical. Today it's only theoretical. Contextual is where you know the reason why you learn something, where you learn where you can use it. So if I start with the diagram, if I give you now the same inside the diagram, if I cut the maximum circle out. Now, it's important to learn that language. I'll show you what is math in just 1 minute. If I just mention that I have 12 chocolates, I will think like this. This is how, if I'm thinking in math, this is how I think. I have 12 chocolates, it takes some, math is a very short language, it's not a different language. Math is science and science is math. If you learn right, you will know that both are right. Both are together. I have 12 chocolates, it's only this much. A long sentence, it takes only 1 second to represent. Now if I extend this, I'm showing you what is math. I need to give this to 3 of my friends. If I'm thinking like that, I'll immediately represent 3 of my friends as A, B, C. Now why am I representing A, B, C and not A, and A? Why not A plus A plus A? Because all 3 of my friends, I can differentiate between them. If I cannot differentiate, I would have written, now this is a 11th standard topic which you will memorize later, you will never learn. But if you are learning right, you can learn this in 8th standard. So math is nothing but, math is where you predominantly use numbers and variables. Science is where, when you learn math and words, that's science. When you learn science in numbers and variables, that's math, broadly. So, if I just complete this last question here, take a square, cut the maximum circle out, cut the maximum square out, the diagram will look like this. If I just mention, take a square, cut the maximum circle out, cut the maximum square out, can you do this in 5 seconds? If you can, that means you start learning, you are learning right. This is called translation. Take a square, cut the maximum circle out, cut the maximum square out. Now you might not get a question like that. In a question when you get in your paper, you will also get the diagram. That's why I am telling you that exams are easier than what you think. We just give them so much respect that we are scared of them. Most of us are scared of exams. Very difficult to perform if you are scared of something. You will never hit a 6 for thinking that will it go above the boundary. You will hit a 6 when you try hitting, you should try hitting it out of the park, so that even a missed hit will go for a 6, like what Chris Gale is always doing. Missed hit will go for a 6 if you are trying to hit out of the park. Go for shots like that, hit out of the park, so that it's going for a 6. Even missed hits will go for a 6. People won't even realize your mistakes. But for that, you need to be extremely positive if you want to do things like that. So, take a square, take a circle, take a square. Now I'll make a question out of this. The question is a very simple one. This is region 1, this is region 2. So you're looking at a diagram where there is a square and a circle and a square. Let me make this slightly because it's easy to visualize. Now, I've represented 2 regions here. And I'm naming these 2 regions as 1 and 2. This is 1, this is 2. The question is to find 1 plus 2, area of 1 plus 2. I'll give this side as 16. Just to make it look like an exam, to a competitive one, I'll give you 4 answer options. 14, 6, 32, 60. Now, the question is to find 1 plus 2. All of you will solve it. This is a very basic one. This is for students as well as parents. What you should do is, after going back, give this to 10 of your friends and see how they are solving. All of them will solve. But I can assure you that almost all of them will solve it like a machine. When I say like that, what I mean is, now 1 plus 2, how will you typically solve 1 plus 2 here? Region 1 is different from region 2, so you will find this in 2 steps. Region 1 is where area of the square minus area of the circle divided by 4. Now why are you dividing by 4? Because there are 4 regions like 1. And right, there are 4 regions like 1, but only 1 is shaded over here. That's why you are dividing by 4. Now what about region 2? Region 2, how will you find out? How will you find area of region 2? Area of the circle minus area of the inner square. Again you will divide by 4. You will divide by 4 because there are 4 regions like 2 and you need to count only once. You will get your answer for sure. You will get your marks also. But you will end up taking more time because pi is involved in calculation. And options, if I am giving like this without pi, you will end up taking anywhere between, let's say, 1.5 to 2.5 minutes depending on your calculation speed. Now, what you are not doing is, if you are using some kind of logic, right, some kind of common sense, when you look at a diagram like this, the first thing which you need to ask is, you have a circle. When you have a circle, whether I take a square like this, or let me do it the other way around. Assuming that all of you took today's paper in a paper. When you take a paper like this, do we solve questions by turning the paper? We never solve it. It's something out of the box. When you keep a paper like this, question might be slightly more difficult than you just turn the paper by 45 degrees. It will become much more simpler. But I can assure you that we never even think like that. But why? Why is a big question mark over there? We can just turn the paper and solve it much faster. So let me make it simpler for you. Maybe you are not getting it because you don't have the paper now. You keep a paper, turn it by 45 degrees. You can either turn the paper by 45 degrees or you can also turn only the inner square by 45 degrees. This is what you will get. Now my question is, can I take any of these squares? Whether I take this square or whether I take the other one. Will there be any change in the final answer? Because it's the same square, it's just rotated inside. And when you do that, I can take any square because area wise there won't be any change. Now you see the difference. Difference is, now again I am not teaching you how to solve a question. I am showing you the advantage of thinking. I am showing you the advantage of having multiple perspectives rather than just becoming one-dimensional. You will become one-dimensional if you are depending on spoon feeding, if you are only depending on teachers, and if you are not depending on you. You are much more powerful because in a classroom, a teacher has a lot more limitations than what you have at home. At home, it's personalized because you are learning on your own. In a classroom, it's always one-to-many. Teacher can only take care of the top 2 students or the bottom 2 students or the middle 2 students. It's impossible, right? It's impossible to explain in 5 different ways. But you can start thinking in 5 different ways. So, and when you combine both, it becomes a lot more powerful. Now you see the difference. What will happen is, what I just showed is, the inner square, when you rotate the inner square, it will become like this. This is what you will get. And you don't need this one. The difference is, region 1 is already there. Region 2 will move here. 1 and 2 are brought together. When you bring 1 and 2 together, naturally they are brought together. You are not bringing them, but when you turn the square inside, 1 and 2 are together. The advantage is circle is out. Now you don't need the circle. Circle is out, and the answer is much faster because there is no calculation. There is no calculation because, how will you get it? How do you find the area of this triangle now? You are trying to take it from a memory, but rather than that, if you are using common sense, it's as easy as just cut the diagram. If you just cut the diagram, you will count the answer. How will you do that? This is the answer. 1, 2. And you will count the answer like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 out of 8 is shaded over here. 1 out of 8 of, what is the outer area? That's easy, right? 16 is the side of the square. So what is the area? 256. 1 by 8 of 256, you will get 32 as an answer, much faster. You can go back, you don't need to try, give this to 10 of your friends and see how many of them are solving it by turning the paper. We don't solve it like that. Why? That's where you need to find why is a big question mark. These are very simple things, it's just common sense. But we are all getting trained not to think when we are only following a system which runs based on now. Your learning today, your learning is based on fear of exams.